radio may have all the dollars, but we have all the change. Everything you want to hear from the voice of Cerritos College. WPMD on the net, where people make a difference.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Falcon Spotlight. I'm your host, Rob Flores, and we are here at Cerritos College, Norwalk, California. At this time, I'd like my guest to please introduce himself.
Hey everyone, I'm Enrique Rivera, former news editor of the Talon Marks, and also a former radio show host here at WPMD.
Now, it's been a while since you've been here, but you experienced a lot when you were here, and you got to actually experience the transfer process. So
Right.
we have a lot to discuss. But first, I always start off with asking my guests, what was high school like? What were they involved in? Did they know right away? Did you know what was the next step after high school?
Not really. I mean, it took a while for me to even be wanting to come to school. I actually took my sister to actually take me here and, register and stuff like that. But I had an idea what I wanted to do, but I didn't know exactly how I could have done it.
And then once you were at Cerritos, tell me about your time at journalism.
Journalism, it was pretty cool. I started going there by starting at WPMD, actually. I went to the broadcasting class, and then try to do some radio here, and then eventually I was in, because it was together with Talon Marks, so I was like, might as well try it out. So I tried it out the next semester, and I actually liked my first semester there. I did the whole semester there as a staff writer, and the next semester I came in as news editor. So I enjoyed my time at Talon Marks. I learned a lot from there. I learned how to write. I learned that I actually wanted to do journalism for a while. So yeah.
Cool. Now, tell me about, obviously each semester you switch to a different role when you're at the newspaper.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you could eventually also stay on the same role if the editor-in-chief wants you like that. But you can move your way. You also have your choice. If they ask you to come back, and you want to do something else. Eventually, you could ask to be placed doing something. If you're doing news editor before, you could be asked to go into arts editor or whatever. So it all depends on the editor-in-chief and what they want to put you at. You could, of course, move your way all the way up to editor-in-chief. But yeah, it also it just depends on the editor-in-chief and where they want to put you at.
And tell me about your journey in the paper, the positions you went to.
Well, I just started with a staff writer. I was there the whole semester. But my first semester, I was just writing. I actually, I did an interview for editor-in-chief. Obviously, didn't get it, but I learned a lot from just that interview, and my time there. And then eventually, the next year, the one who got the editor-in-chief, he asked me to be news editor, and I took it. And I remember my first couple of stories that I actually assigned. I look at the newspaper now and look at my work there with as news editor. The first semesters I was just kind of embarrassed. This is not that good. But eventually because it was my first editor position. So eventually the more I did it, the more I learned how to get stories and cover the actual big stories that people want to read. And learned a lot from that, especially because we got to write too. So I brushed up my writing skills as much as also my leader skills.
And tell me about the experience of Ed Board.
Ed Board, it's an interesting case. I mean, it's kind of like the chair meeting of this particular thing. It's all the leaders there and discuss what stories should be published and what shouldn't, and discuss on your writers. So the one troubling thing about being editor is you got to remember that this is also a class, and so you could look at your new staff writers. And they probably don't find it they're not as enthusiastic as you are about writing stories. So your biggest challenge, other than of course writing stories and assigning them, is trying to get your writers to be as enthusiastic about writing stories as you are. That's one of the biggest challenges for that. But yeah, that's. And that's just pretty much all Ed Board is trying to find ways to better the paper, at least just a semester. And it's funny too because it's just a semester long. You probably take the whole semester to figure it out, and once you figure it out, the semester's already about to finish, and there's no more to work on. So that's just pretty much it on the Ed Board.
And now tell me your experience of Campus News Hour.
Campus News Hour, it was pretty cool. I joined the campus director at that time was Tito. He was pretty big on audio stories. So and I was already big on WPMD, so I know my way around WPMD and how to read stories. I brushed up my reading skills on writing stories for it. It was pretty fun. It's just again, it was like the hardest part. You're already having trouble getting writers to write stories, and now you have to add something by having them edit and put stories together via audio. So it's a little bit more challenging. It could be frustrating when that doesn't happen. But again, that's your challenge as an editor, as a leader. There is to get it right, and the big advantage I had while doing campus news hour director was that I was actually news editor, so I knew what stories were up on the menu and what we could talk about but it all involved around the actual writers of the stories to actually put those stories together, because it's not like we had a different section for just multimedia people. It was actually our writers, our staff writers had to do pretty much everything, just as much as editors had to overlook all of that too.
Cool. Now, you got to, after the newspaper, you transferred. Tell me about the transfer experience. I know that, you actually chose to go out of state. Tell me about, the differences and everything.
Well, I mainly like out of Arizona State University, because it was a big journalism school. It was a big school for media in general, and it was at first I was excited. When you get that acceptance letter, especially from a big school like that, you're excited about it and stuff. So I was excited, but right away I checked out. Okay, so how am I gonna? What's next? What's next for me? How do I go from here to there? Now I'm in the school already. It's not going to be easy to just okay, well, it's not like you're going to a local university where you could just drive there and then come back to your regular house. You actually have to find a house there. So you got to decide on things like housing, if you want to have a roommate or live on campus or live off campus in a different apartment or with somebody else. So you got to figure that out. I chose to live out of campus in my own apartment, which is probably not the brightest idea because rent is not that cheap, although it is cheaper in Arizona. But it's still not you're already paying high tuition for out of state. So it's just, if I were to recommend people who want to go to out of state school, you should do it. You should go to the school you want to go to. But I don't want to take anybody from that. But you got to really research it and look at how you're gonna live there and how you're gonna get there from where you're at right now. To look at costing of living there and stuff like that. And so that's the one thing I would really recommend, is just because it's not going to be cheap, out of state tuition, that it's not cheap. But overall, that school, Arizona State, it's a pretty good school. I started there as a film and media studies major. I'm still there. I just need a year or so, but and it's pretty good. It's a pretty cool school for film and media studies. It's a pretty good school in general. And the atmosphere there compared to community college is a little bit different because, well, I mean, everybody gets excited about going to these schools is, of course, the lifestyle, the actual university lifestyle. You're living with your friends, and then you have moments to study, and then you have moments to party or whatever. You have to decide that on your own, how you're gonna balance it out. That's another thing to look at too. That's another reason why I chose to live out in my off campus, because I figure I don't want to get too crazy up on that. So I figure if I probably live off campus, I wouldn't be too much involved with that. But the Arizona State, it's a good school for film and media studies, and it gets they're right there when you're in the university now. That it's not because of the expenses, the high tuition. It's you cannot screw up or mess up. You cannot fail, because it was pretty expensive to get there. So to get that class, and then you have to, and if you fail it, you're gonna have to buy. It's not just I don't know how tuition is to real colleges now. It's not just I don't know. I'm assuming it's 500 or something like that. It's not just you just wasted $500. You're actually wasting a nice couple thousand bucks. and plus, yeah, that means you have to stay longer in the school, so that you have to delay your graduation date. So that's the biggest difference too. It's not like community college where maybe you get a free pass if you fail one or two classes, and then you're just like, okay, well I just failed it. I guess I just take it again next semester. You could take it again in the next semester at Arizona State, but I mean you probably not want to do that because you have to spend a whole bunch of money again on the class.
Now, did you get to experience the radio station over there?
Yeah, I did. Actually, it's a pretty good station there. It's together with the journalism program there, and it's called what was the name of that school? It was named after a famous journalist. I can't remember it right now. But it's one of the top journalism programs in the country too. So. The radio station there, it's a little bit different than this one. Right there, you're actually more involved with as far as you actually treat it as a local radio station. So you play everything that the radio station wants you to play. If you want to have your own show, you could, but if you want to play music, you gotta put everything whatever it's on the database. So it's a pretty good experience too. Like I got to experience WPMD, which is a lot different than the K-Blaze. I believe it's Blaze. The Blaze Radio is what's called over there. I was there for a nice semester, and then you just DJing an hour, of music or whatever you want to play. But I played music, just that, and you get to practice, or you get to see more about commercial radio, even though it wasn't a commercial radio, but it's the closest you're gonna get without being in a commercial radio, and it's pretty simple also to get in. You just have the wanted to do it. And then you're gonna screw up every now and then, but that's the process of a student learning the radio business side of it.
Phil's listening to us.
Oh, great! How's it going, Phil?
Good times.
Any questions?
Yeah, right after this break.
All right.
And I'm lucky. I have macular degeneration.
Oh, that's so far, okay?
That's when
Good,
the
yeah.
blood vessels in your eyes.
Yeah, he just texted me right now. He's like, listening to the show. What the hell happened?
As I went through school, one
That's
giant
weird.
question loomed over me.
I've never seen
What
a
did I want to be?
PSA stop like that.
But in order to know what I wanted to be, I had to first decide what I wanted to make. I wanted to make more. So I became a teacher. Now I
You
make
wanna become a
learning
teacher, Rob?
privilege, not
He's like,
a
oh, this guy, no need to shout out.
tool, not an obstacle. I make working hard seem easy, and giving up impossible. I make an old subject feel like a fresh thought, and unconventional methods common. I make material things less important, and little things like patience and kindness count. I make weekdays more exciting than weekends, and classrooms feel like anything but. I make things different, which is all I ever hoped for. I'm a teacher.
How many do you play?
It's one PSA, one promo.
Make more.
The read also.
Brought to you by Teach and the Ad Council.
Being a responsible citizen, you want to know what's going on in your community. And being a responsible community radio station, it's our job to let you know. So, WPMD presents meetings from both Norwalk and Cerritos City Council meetings. Every Sunday at 5 Pacific, only on WPMD, where people make a difference.
The people who climb to rock's highest peaks have a body of work with the greatest breadth. And we bring it all to you on Collections. The biggest hits, best-known album tracks, live and broadcast performances, collaborations, demos, alternate mixes and takes, even unreleased music. Hear your favorite artists as you've never heard them before on Collections, part of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, only on WPMD on the net, where people make a difference.
And welcome back to the Falcon Spotlight, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Rob Flores, here at Falcon Spotlight, Cerritos College, Norwalk, California. Now, remember, folks, you can look for my fan page, Cerritos College Falcon Spotlight, on Facebook, and you can look for the YouTube channel as well. Now, this is always a good time to plug. I always do this. Where can people reach you at?
Well, I have my website. I work on a lot of podcasting on my website. So you can just look up at ecstaticradio.com, XSTA, I got a little lazy on that. But so yeah, you can listen to all my stuff. And on Facebook too, you can look for ecstaticradio.com and Sportsnext Radio. So yeah, they can find me there.
Cool. Now, you've been using this Ecstatic name for a long time. When did you start?
I started actually here. I had a show here called Ecstatic, and I just played music at the time, and I don't know, I just kind of got clingy to the title, and eventually I just decided to why not just start my own website about it, and then I actually wanted to start a website, but I don't know what to call it, so I went through all these names, and none of them really stuck out, and I was just like, well, why don't I just go with Ecstatic Radio? And it's just there. I already used it. And I could, keep it. So I just decided to go with that.
Cool. Now, you've had experience, with audio and stuff. But tell me about the software that you use in order to podcast.
I use GarageBand mostly. I use that to edit everything. I also use Adobe, but that was a while ago with Talon Marks Campus News Hour. But I got used to doing GarageBand. Actually, GarageBand was also for Talon Marks too. So mostly it's just been that, and it helps. For me, I mean, it's only because I got used to it and I know how it works now, and it's not that bad. It doesn't give me any issues, so as long as it doesn't give me any issues, I'll still use it.
Do you recommend, for starters that want to get into podcasting, what do they have to do?
First, you gotta figure out what do you gotta podcast about. There's different things that you can podcast about, and I recommend also to just do what you love talking about. And I was like earlier, I was like, well, I like talking a lot about sports, so why don't I just do sports? Well, actually, Sportsnext started from a different show called the different podcast I had called the Eric and Johnny Show, and then that was just like a variety show. So from there, and then there was a segment we had on just sports, and I was just like, before the break, I was like, sports is next, and I was just like, why don't you just, and then actually that sports segment took much longer than the rest of the show, so I was like, well, I could do a whole show on sports, so I eventually did it, and that also because I could talk a lot about sports, because I know a lot about sports, because I enjoy talking about sports. So for people there want to start who don't know what to do a podcast about, and they want to do something, they just discuss whatever it is. There's podcasts there of different things that you wouldn't think there is. And it's just to talk about movies, sports, music, whatever. Pop culture. They rant about stuff, politics, whatever. There's a lot of things, and so just recommending that you do what you like talking about, and then of course you find the software if you know how to use editing software. I don't really edit my stuff too much. I just do it and then just put it together, all the segments together, and that's it. I don't try to do too crazy things with my voice on there, or I don't really edit there. Probably should, but I figured it's okay right now for the meantime.
As far as software, let's say you first buy your laptop. Would you say that the freebie stuff, the whatever program that already comes with the computer, is it sufficient, or do you recommend they go and buy something to work with the audio?
Yeah, well, because of the iMac comes out with the GarageBand, and that's good enough. So I mean, I figure I don't know really what the audio software comes with PCs. I believe PCs you don't have to. You actually have to buy audio software, but it's not really. It's just your preference of what you're better working with, because the reality, you could just get anyone and then you get used to it and it'll work the same way as GarageBand. It's just that I have used GarageBand for a while now, so it really doesn't. There's no big preference. There's no other there's no big software there that's used to just podcasting. Because that's the easiest part. It's just that. It's just doing it probably. And later on, of course, you want to know how to distribute your podcast, how to have people listen to it, where are they going to find it. And I use my website just that. But there's ways, depends how far you want to go into this. You can find ways you could just put it on iTunes and then have people purchase it there or listen to it there for free. Or there's SoundCloud. Or there's, it all depends on what you want to use. I prefer WordPress at the meantime because it's good enough, again, for people to just listen to it. I'm just starting out too, doing it. So at least that particular podcast. So it's right now I'm just like trying to gain listeners.
And then for WordPress, like since there's like different accounts you can have, like which one do you use right now?
Well, I just use excitedradio.com. That's what I use for to upload my shows, the audio there. You could just upload it there like that. That's you don't have to use like a different platform to you have to upload it there, and then from there you get you embed the code, the share code, and then you could just like put the whole media clip onto there, and then from there people could just listen to it.
But like you know how there's I think there's like premium or like.
Oh yeah, well I mean because my shows are they're longer than an hour, and we have done 73 episodes now. So can you imagine that's like what 73 plus hours, and I need a lot of space. So if you have the freebie one, you could you don't have that much space. Also, you can't get your own domain. I recommend a lot getting your own domain, which is like that's the cheapest part. Is like I believe it's like WordPress has it for like I think $10 a year to get just your domain. But then of course you want that space, that extra space that you have, especially if your podcasts are pretty long or your files are pretty big. So that all depends on how much space you feel like you. There's a business business economical ones. There's the most expensive ones, and there's a regular premium one, and then there's the free one. So it all depends on you. I like to get the premium one because I need a lot of space for the meantime, and I don't want to go too far out as getting the business one because I'm not there yet.
And right now, tell me about the types of shows you do.
Well, I started doing my shows, one called The Eric and Johnny Show, and that was a variety comedy show. If you ever listen to, morning shows on the radio, they just like they just come out a whole bunch of nonsense. It was kind of like that. Eventually, like we stopped doing it because, for whatever reason, we just ran out of material, whatever. We stopped doing that, and then I figured then at the same time I started doing Sports Next. And from there, my co-host was Anthony Hodge. He was also part, actually, of Talon Marks and part of WPMD. He co-hosted a show here, too. We started doing the Sports Next radio. And from there, like, we went from that one is, like I said earlier, we have done 73 episodes. Last week, we finished our 73rd episode. And we do it weekly, so that's longer than a year. That's about almost a year and a half that we've done it. So that's the longest rating show we have right now, and it's mainly because it's hard. It's hard to do something when you're not getting paid for it. It's easy to say like, oh, you know what, I want to stop this. I'm not getting paid for it anyway. But it's just because we love talking about sports, and that we've been able to do that. So I do that. I do Sports Next. We also have another third guy there coming in every now and then. Is Philip, who we just talked about earlier.
Phil.
He comes in now and then. And that sports show we talk about, NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, and every now and then we talk about UFC. So and we go full in depth about the biggest week's news, the biggest news of the week on those particular sports. We also had another show there for a while called the Allison Rosie Show, and that one was pretty much a lot about pop culture as far as animation and movies and music and stuff like that. That was also co-hosted by somebody who also used to be in WPMD. Her name was Rosie. She used to have Rosie and Rosie Experience, I believe. She was also here, and then Alejandra, who was also in Talon Marks for a bit. So I noticed how I use a lot of them. I keep in touch with a lot of former editors and people here, and then that's what we have at the moment. We're still thinking about expanding it by doing more podcasts and see what other shows we could do on the regular. But it's hard because it's the one thing that's hard to start up your own brand. The hardest thing about starting your brand is that you got to realize at the moment you're not getting paid for it, so you could easily be like, well, I don't want to do this anymore. But you got to find a way to keep yourself, because probably you're doing it for a reason, probably because you feel like this is gonna set you in the future. So that's all you got to remember about it, and just go from there.
And another person that we knew was a professor here, Walter Hamroll. Tell me about him.
He's a pretty good professor. Yeah, I took him for news writing, and he really gets you what journalism was about. He really is probably he doesn't just like teach too. He gives you a lot about what's going on in the how you should take yourself as a student and as a writer. You know, he's that's pretty much it. He moved on probably to a bigger position, but he's a pretty good instructor here, I'll say.
Yep. Had a good time taking his classes too.
Yeah.
And you know, time goes by very fast, and you've grown as an interviewer. Tell me about your beginnings, though. Like, how did you kind of evolve your interviewing skills?
Oh yeah, like when I was here, I did have my own radio show, and I did bring in try to bring in a lot of people to interview. I had a band who's from my city. I was at Compton. Yeah, that's right, Compton over there. The band's name was Hub City Trash, and they're pretty interesting group of people. But I had them here, and then like as far as my interviewing skills, like you know, it's one. I really look at a lot of like his interviews through the news, you know, and see how they gather around the questions, because the one thing as an interviewer, you're supposed to, you know, get the truth or whatever and find answers that people want to know about. And you know, you don't want to ask people like, what kind of cheeseburger did you eat yesterday? You want to ask them, you know, what you know, the things that matters. By the way, I ate In-N-Out yesterday. So you got to find out what people want to hear, like. And that's also hard, you know. You gotta find questions for people at the same time that you don't want to offend them or whatever, you know. Like that's a pretty hard thing to do. And I also had another band here called Vanity Heist. I had a quite nice variety then, but I guess it's just the questions, you know, the basic questions you want to ask them, and then there's if you really want to get deeply into it, then you gotta ask. It just also goes on through the interview. So you find your own question. You improvise a question through there because something they send, you're like, oh, you know, that's pretty interesting. Well, tell me about that instead. So yeah, it could get pretty challenging. But again, it's interesting to hear about, especially when I talk to bands, their upcomings from where they were and to where they're at now.
And, you know, this studio, too, you know, like everybody says, you know, this place helps build confidence.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's another big thing, too. Okay, my first show here ever was a show I called Hollywood A to Z. And that was pretty much a movie talk show. I had another co-host at the time, Raul. I had it with him, and I remember the first time I didn't want to go live. I was too scared to go live. And so I decided to pre-record it, and oh my goodness, that was even worse, because I think we were there in the editing studio for like pretty much the whole day, just getting an hour together. And I think we missed our slot time the following day, and it was just a mess. And that was mainly because we didn't know how much about it and how to do it, and also because we were probably nervous and like, oh, how should we talk on the radio, you know, how to do that. And you know, obviously you want to do it the same way you would do it on the street talking about movies, but it's hard because you have microphones in front of you and you're recording something, so it's not like, and people are gonna listen to you actually talk. So that's the biggest difference about changing it. So and then through the time, I think the second time it was like, you know what, let's just do it live. You know, we can screw up whatever. Let's just try. So what WPMD does is like it gives you your a chance to screw up. Because and of course you're not gonna get fired, you know, because if you were to screw up on the radio station you're working at, you probably will get fired. But here, you know, you start off and then you could screw up probably once or twice and 3 times, and you get critiqued about it too. You could get you send it to instructors here who could critique the way you talk or your whole show entire show. And your job is just to be open to it. Probably you're gonna get criticized really badly, but that's part of learning. And then as the more you do it, the more you're gonna get comfortable with it. You know, it took me a while too to get comfortable with it and trying to to present myself on the air as best as I could. It took a while. You know, you're not gonna get it at the first, because I know it kind of sounds exciting too when you first get a show here. You know, you get to finally talk about what you want, and then you're on the air. You're like, you know, so it's it's a tough transition, but you know, it's just about doing it and then just noticing that, you know, this is your student at the first place here in WPMD. As part of a student is to learn how to master what you want to do in the future. And if radio is something you want to do in the future, then that's the best place to learn, because again, if you move anywhere else, it's not going to go well for you. So that's the best thing to do. And it's not even just, I guess, radio. If you want to do just radio, it's also whatever you want to do. It gives you more confidence in yourself. That makes you feel like you accomplished something. Not a lot of people can go on the air and talk about things and sound good or whatever. So it makes you feel good. To also say like I'm doing this or whatever, and share your ideas to the people. I guess that's whatever you do in the future. I guess it's a good way to get confidence in yourself.
Yeah, totally. We definitely evolve here, and we get better and better with practice. Now, here we have the ability to learn our craft here, and we have some equipment here. And eventually you got to do this independently. So
Right.
my next question is the equipment you use to record.
Well, what I use right now.
Yeah.
Well, it's just I had a microphone, and it doesn't even take that that big microphone at home, or it doesn't even take the most expensive software you have. Obviously, if you have that, then cool. You have the money to get them, then that's great. But you don't need that, And I do my shows on my. I used to do it in my garage or in my room, and it's there's a lot of frustration because I live in Compton. There's a whole bunch of sirens going around. You can hear the sirens, but the important thing is that they can hear you and they can hear what you're talking about. So sometimes before I didn't even use the microphone. I just used the output on the computer. It's just I think what's the most important thing when you start out is just doing it. It doesn't even matter how you do it. It's just doing it. Just do it, and it doesn't even matter if you sound good. Just the fact that you have content out there that you could put somewhere, it's the best feeling. It's just something that you could push out there. It doesn't matter the equipment that you use. So right now I just bought me a nice little microphone from Best Buy. You could go there and it wasn't even that expensive. Use that, and then you could also video record it. You don't even need an expensive camera. You could just get a simple one from again Best Buy, or anywhere. It sounds like I sound like I work at Best Buy, and that's all. You don't really need that biggest equipment. The biggest equipment, the most expensive one. It's just the fact that the most important thing is just doing it at the time.
So like here at Talon Marks, I noticed Tito used to call the microphone Mike Vader, that big type of microphone.
Right.
Tell me about your experience with that type of microphone too.
It was cool. Again, it's like I guess at that time too, I didn't worry too much about that. It's just again, I just worried about just doing it, and I saw the microphone. I was like, oh, cool. It sounds pretty nice. Coming out of it, it sounds nice. I won't deny that. But I guess like I was just more interested in just doing it, and it didn't matter how much. And it takes a lot. You do it. It also depends, I guess, where you do it. You have the soundproof rooms, which you don't. Again, I told you I